going to install some tall wall units. Tall wall units are probably the most difficult of all kitchen units to install due to the size and weight of them. It can be really difficult moving these units, especially if you are on your own. I have done a video on how to move tall units, which I will link to in the description. We are going to fit 3 tall wall units in this video. A 300 pull-out larder unit, an oven and microwave housing, and an integrated fridge freezer unit. To start off with, you should have a plan of the kitchen. This can be a plan you have drawn up yourself, or the plan could have been drawn up by a professional. This kitchen was designed by Kirsty from Haworth Timber in Blackburn, who did a fantastic job. If you look at the plan, there is a 300 tall unit in the corner. We were going to fit this first, but the unit was damaged. So I was going to start in the other corner of the room, but then realised that an electrical socket outlet was in the way. This is not the kitchen designer's fault, as the socket was omitted from the original kitchen plan. So the plan has changed slightly, and I'm now going to fit the 300 pull-out larder in this corner. Normally you would fit the unit and space it from the wall and use an infill cut from one of the tall end panels. But I'm going to use a vertical trim instead of using an infill, because the kitchen unit is rebaited for the trim, so an infill piece cannot be used. Whenever you fit a tall unit like these, you need to ensure it is firmly fixed to the wall, as kids have been known to climb up the units and they have become detached from the wall, causing injury. The first unit is being fixed to a stud partition wall. This unit also needs spacing 50mm away from the back of the wall due to the design of the handleless kitchen. To achieve this, I am attaching a piece of 3x2 timber to the wall, which will give me just under 50mm. If you take a look at the back of the units, there is a piece of chipboard fixed in 2 locations. I'm going to fix my 3x2 timber at these heights so that I can use them to get a good fixing. Not all units are made identical to this one, so you might need to improvise and use some offcuts of suitable timber in order to achieve something similar. Most kitchen units come with tiny fixing brackets, but I would never rely on those to hold a tall wall unit in position. You'll notice that there is a gap between the back panel of the unit and the actual back of the unit. We need to bridge that gap so that the unit pulls tight to the wall. I'm using space plugs to take up the gap, but you can use a suitable offcut of timber. Obviously, if you are not spacing your units 50mm away from the wall, you can skip the batten and fix the unit directly into the wall using suitable fixings. We need to carefully walk the unit into the corner of the room, ensuring we do not break off the feet. I have put some wooden blocks on the end of the unit to ensure that it is spaced from the wall. Now that the unit is in position, we need to adjust the feet so that the plinth will fit under the unit, including the height of the floor covering. Once you know this distance, you can cut a piece of wood that exact size and use it as a guide for all other base units. It's absolutely critical that the first unit is completely plumb in both directions before the unit is fixed to the wall. Once you are confident that it is plumb, you can fix the unit to the batten using some 4-inch long screws. I'm also using the small brackets provided as additional support on the outside of the carcass. I have now fitted the trim to cover the gap. This will be covered in detail in another video. Now we need to fix the next unit. Normally this is just a case of moving it into position next to the first unit. But because this kitchen uses vertical trims, it is a bit more complicated. If you are fitting a standard tall unit next, you can just butt it up against the first unit, ensuring they are perfectly aligned and that it's level in both planes. Then fix it to the wall. I would also join both units together, which is covered in another video. We now need to consult the instructions for fitting the XZ brackets. These need fixing to the unit as per the instructions. As you can see, the brackets are male and female, so it's easy to get the cabinets positioned correctly, providing you fit the brackets correctly. There are 5 of these to fit per unit. These should be fixed using the screws provided, but a small pilot hole is required. Now I've lifted the oven housing using a homemade skate and bicycle lifter. This has been covered in the How to Move Tall Units video. The 2 brackets at the back are orientated so that this unit will slide right into place. I can now carefully slide the unit back to the wall. The 3 brackets at the front will engage with the 3 existing brackets on the 300 pull-out larder unit once it is lowered. Now the unit is in the exact right position, we need to adjust the feet to get it to the correct height so that the plinth plus floor covering will fit under the front of the unit. The unit then needs adjusting so that it is perfectly plumb in both directions before fixing it to the battens. As well as fixing through the pieces of chipboard on the back, I'm also using small angle brackets at each side. It's difficult reaching one of these as there is only a 30mm gap, but a few 1/4 inch extension bars and I can reach to drive in the screw. With a unit like this, we also have to check that it's square before fixing it to the wall. You can do this by measuring where the oven and microwave go diagonally in both directions. If the unit is square, both measurements will be identical. Or you can use a large framing square or similar. That's it for now in this corner. There's just the tall end panel to cut and fix at the left hand side. Then 3 base units will be fitted. All this will be covered in other videos. In the other corner we are fitting a fridge freezer unit. Again, these are difficult to move into position. I've had to fix a vertical trim to the right hand side of the unit so that it matches the 300 larder unit in the other corner. Normally I would cut an infill piece as mentioned earlier. I ended up removing the doors from this unit as they were warped and needed replacing. This also made the unit much easier to move into position. Luckily the wall is straight, so we can just move this into the correct position and lower it down. I've got the freezer housing installed now, and it's touching the wall there, the trim. And I've actually checked the inside to ensure that it is square, because the last thing you want is a unit that isn't quite square. It can cause a lot of problems later on. So we've made sure that the plinth will go on, and then I've fixed to the left hand side of there using a small bracket. Obviously behind that piece of wood we've got the piece of wood that we fixed to the wall with the Corefix fixings. So now I'm going to take some really long screws. These will go straight through that piece of chipboard, straight through the space plug and straight into the piece of 3x2 behind, which is firmly fixed to the wall. I'm then fixing through the chipboard at the back into the battens. If you are not using battens, you can simply fix into the wall using suitable dot and dab fixings, such as Corefix or Rigifix fixings. When fitting the fridge freezer, it was apparent that some of the chipboard was in the way, so I had to cut that out and replace it with some strong angle braces. That's about it for this video. Please ensure you've watched the rest of the videos in this playlist, as you might find them useful.